My co-host, first of all, Julian Harper.
Welcome.
Second of all, Michael Grays.
Namaste.
And last of all, the great Father Lucas.
Tet.
And we'd like to welcome you, our viewing audience, who view the program from the 5 boroughs in the tri-state area, and some of you from across the nation on MNN.org. And we'd like to also welcome our viewing audience from Free Speech Television. Those of you who have Free Speech Television can catch the program every Saturday at 11 p.m. That is 11 p.m. Community Cop is now on Free Speech Television. And for our viewers of Free Speech Television, we'd like to invite you to also watch the program every Tuesday at 5 o'clock over the internet at MNN.org. You look for the live feed, and you can plug into the program and catch us live, but then catch us again when we come on Saturday at 11 o'clock p.m. So we'd like to welcome all of our audiences from all over, to which we hope to be nothing but truth and real talk. As is customary, we like to reflect, as we always do every program, on a historical event or historical personalities from our community. Michael, we'll start with you. An unfortunate incident, one of the most unfortunate incidents in our history, was the assassination of Malcolm X. We have an anniversary. Your thoughts on this horrific event?
Wish that in some way this could have been avoided. He was killed, as we all know, in Harlem, the Audubon Ballroom, February 21st, 1965, in the afternoon, with his family present, with close friends. His organization, the Organization of Afro-American Unity, was in progress. And unfortunately, he was killed by 5 people, all coming out of the New Jersey area, primarily Mosque number 25 in Newark. Unfortunately, they were associated with that mosque. That's not to say that this was an NOI event of sorts, but the people who actually pulled the trigger, the 3 people who pulled the trigger, and those who were involved in the distraction aspect of it, were all members of the Nation of Islam. So we should never forget that, and it's unfortunate to this day all the sores haven't been healed. There's not dialogue between certain nationalist organizations as a result. I thought it was beautiful when Minister Farrakhan made it clear that he said he was part of an environment that led up to that, as was so many others, and as was Malcolm himself, said things and some things that was done that definitely created an atmosphere that led to his assassination. But we all lost in this one. There were no victors. Certain people wanted Malcolm silenced, and unfortunately, he was silenced that day, and we are all at a loss. We would have been made better had he survived and was able to enact the things that the Organization of African American Unity was trying to implement at the time in the UN, as well as among our people. So we are all at a deep loss to this day for the loss of our shining black prince.
I can't forget my first encounter with Malcolm at that time it was Lenox Avenue, when I had come home from the seminary, and Malcolm asked me what was I doing. I was saying I'm a student. He said, yeah, I could see that. And then he asked what, and I said, I'm studying to be a Roman Catholic priest. And Malcolm said, you out of here. He didn't say cotton picking, he used another phrase, mine. From that day on, we became rather close friends, because it was interesting listening to him and discussing things. I thought that while he helped to create the atmosphere, but the atmosphere was created because he was telling the truth. And when Minister Farrakhan, whom we've come to know each other fairly well now, when Minister Farrakhan said it was true, he really was the one who helped to create the environment that led to his death. He's now regretted, I'm sure, but one of the things that struck out to me was this young, well, she wasn't that young, but Yuri Kochiyama, who had spent years when they incarcerated or put in camps all the Japanese. And Yuri was really a fighter, and she was the brave young lady, while the shots were being fired, who ran up to the stage and cradled Malcolm while he was dead. Unfortunately, we lost her a couple of years ago. But that was one of the things that really stood out to me, to see little Yuri Kochiyama and her bravery on that occasion.
Mm. Well, for me, I'd like to just allow people to remember that even though we lost such a great mind, spirit, and heart from our community, his words still exist. And they still reflect the times that we're living in today. I know Noel frequently says it, and I say it as well. If you listen to his speech, The Battle or the Bullet, I mean, you can listen to what he's saying today and listen to what he said back then, and juxtapose to what's happening today. And, I mean, the words still apply. So even though we lost such a hero, such a strong character and member of our community, his words still exist. So if you have an opportunity to listen to his words, if some of our elected officials had an opportunity to listen to his words, if some of our youth had an opportunity to listen to his words, I think that we can still gain some positive information from all the things that he put forth.
I was so happy when you mentioned that, the battle or the bullet, because if you recall, while he didn't use the exact phrase, it was the attitude behind it that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. used when he was speaking to LBJ.
Yeah, sure.
All right. And although I know Michael said no one benefit from his assassination, I know he meant in terms of our community, because the individuals who benefit most from the assassination of Malcolm X was the same system that was oppressing, exploiting the African American community, who Malcolm spoke so fervently and strongly against, and that be the white racist systematic system that exists in this country, which was responsible for many of the oppressive conditions that African Americans have suffered under his, during his lifetime.
And I also don't want people to forget that the FBI played a role in it as well. We don't want to just talk about, the actual people who pulled the trigger. We want to talk about how COINTELPRO and FBI played a role in it as well.
And NYPD.
Right,
Yes.
and all the PDs around the nation.
Well, just for the sake of the record, since I said March number 25, and that the brothers who did it came out of Newark, well, certainly we know that's why I said it was not an NOI event. So I would never say that the nation killed Malcolm, because the nation did not kill Malcolm. Those individuals just happened to be members of the nation, most of them in good standing at that time. I would certainly say that certainly the FBI and of course the NYPD. The NYPD played a major role. Yes, the FBI played a role in terms of the intelligence end. The FBI played a major role, but the NYPD played a major role on the ground, on the scene when it happened, because they picked 3 people, 2 who had nothing to do with it. The third person they picked was the person who was one of the shooters, who was caught on the scene by Malcolm's people. NYPD didn't catch anybody. They rescued a person who was being beaten by Malcolm's people, and he was one of the shooters. They let the other 2 go, and I can go further with what they actually did, but we don't have the time to go into that. We just focusing on the assassination, not the life of Malcolm. We can go in a whole nother area with what he said and meant to our people. But for the record, NYPD played a major role, and certainly intelligence agencies were a part of this.
All right, and final thoughts on the unfortunate assassination of Malcolm X is that although those individuals might have been members of the Nation of Islam, we know for a fact, according to Malcolm's words and other individuals that were a part of the Nation of Islam, as well as the Black Panther Party and many other organizations, these institutions or organizations have been so thoroughly infiltrated by members of the CIA and the FBI and police agencies that you never know if an individual was a dear, true member or whether or not he was on assignment. So big ups, and we should never forget the sacrifice made by one of our great heroes, Malcolm X. All right, fast forward to our topics today. One of the things we want to talk about real quick is a story that we covered a couple of weeks ago, and that is in regards to the rape of Karina Vetrano. That's the young lady who was savagely raped and murdered in Staten Island. The gentleman who was arrested, who many members of our community have some questions about his arrest, Chanel Lewis, supporters of his defense recently raised a defense fund on GoFundMe.com, which normally allows individuals to raise money for people not able to afford a variety of events. We are informed via Julian that this GoFundMe his GoFundMe site was closed down, which is unprecedented.
Yeah, GoFundMe and another group called Fundly has stopped raising money and allowing people to raise money for him in defense of his arrest and the charge. And it's unfortunate because these people aren't saying whether he's innocent or guilty, but people are looking at this case saying he doesn't, based on what they know about him, based on his mental capabilities, based on some of the information that was given, they're concerned. So in order to find out the truth, to ensure that he has a fair trial, which I think everybody deserves one, at least that's what is stated in our laws, deserves a fair trial, they're trying to raise money for him. And this is not the first time that money has been raised for people in the defense of their criminal case. So this is not like this is unprecedented where they're going to stop the money being raised for this particular defense. So I think we should keep an eye on that.
And it's somewhat hypocritical because even the gentleman who walked into church and murdered members of a congregation that was praying with him, he had individuals raising money for him. Dylan Ruth, the gentleman in Florida who had killed Trayvon Martin.
Yes.
George Zimmerman.
He had a fund where individuals raised
Over
hundreds of thousands.
And police unions contributed to it.
Right, and police unions. And then we have police officers murdered African Americans around the country who frequently have these sites up and they get individuals donating hundreds and hundreds of thousands. So I guess I guess they only find offense in it when an African American is accused of killing them.
And we're talking about a minuscule amount of money that have been raised so far. We're talking not even over $5,000. I think it was somewhere around $2,000 that was raised. And the money had been given back to the people who had donated the monies.
All right, so we'll keep an eye on that, and hopefully individuals who want to raise money for his defense and only asking for a fair trial will find some alternative method to raise money for him. But this is just part and parcel of some of the racial discrimination that we find in this country, and it even exists in fundraising now. But Donald Trump, who's our president, who's been president-elect once again, is really creating a stir all around the world, not only in America. But there was a strategy implemented in order to get him elected, because some people still today are scratching their head is how can this man who said he grabs women by the vagina, who had 11 women come forward to press sexual abuse allegations against him, who had repeatedly made disparaging remarks against female, but he was still successful in getting elected. And some of us think it was just by happen chance. Michael, there's been in the past a Southern strategy that has been implemented by others. Why don't you explain how this Southern strategy was utilized to get Donald Trump elected?
Well, what he was able to do to survive an internal war within the Republican Party with 16 other contestants was he used the Southern strategy where they felt that they were just going to use conventional methods to get the nomination. Well, he used the same tactics that President Nixon utilized. He used the same things that Barry Goldwater used. He used dog whistle politics. He used clear racism, white supremacy. He lifted it up. He attacked blacks. He attacked Mexicans. He attacked Muslims. He made it crystal clear when he talked about the urban cities. He was talking about blacks. When he talked about Mexicans or rapists and drug dealers. When he talked about terrorism, equating the terrorism with Islam. He made it crystal clear that he was going to make America great again, lift up white supremacy. He utilized this same strategy. And you have to remember that the architects of the modern Republican Party is Jesse Helms and Strom Thurmond, two dying-of-war white supremacists of the highest order. They fashioned it, the modern one, so you can't think of Lincoln and others when you think of the Republican Party. You can't think of Charles Schumer. You have to understand Jesse Helms, Strom Thurmond to get a better understanding of what the present Republican Party is. So he utilized that strategy along with what the Tea Party and others were doing, and Jeb Bush and all of them did not. They went away from what made Nixon successful, what made Barry Goldwater and others successful all these years, and what made George Bush successful, and tried to be more conventional. And this is why he used upmanship and said more and did more. And they thought that that would isolate him, but he understood the tenet and texture of America, that America had experienced 8 years of a black family being in the White House, and they could not countenance that anymore. So at that point, it was no holds barred, the kid gloves were off, and he was able to successfully get in, even though those things that Noel mentioned would automatically disqualify you. If you're talking about grabbing a woman's vagina, if you're talking about sticking your tongue down their mouth after you take some Tic Tacs, and how you were starved, and all these other things he was saying would automatically disqualify Gary Hart. Just a photo of him with the woman that was not his wife sitting on his lap, and it's disqualified so many others. And for him to utilize this strategy, racist to the core, but white supremacy is on a comeback like nobody's ever seen. Not that it went anywhere, but you have white people talking about they thought that Attorney General, black, and then another Attorney General, black, that was just a bit much for them. And they saw that their world slipping, and he was able to create an image, a false narrative of white people losing power. They're in the boardrooms, they control the FBI, CIA, the 17 primary intelligence agencies that protect America and that dislodges regimes all over the world. They're in charge of all of them. Yet somehow he was able to convince America that you need me, the great white father, to make America great again. And that's what he was able to do.
Father?
Oh, I think Mike laid it out, but it was the appeal to racism and white supremacy that was at the bottom of all of this. Then you had some additional factors like the FBI, Comey and the FBI, rather strategically come out with, and then the way he was able to grab the media, because every idiotic and stupid thing he said got great media coverage, including the New York Times. And then I certainly would not want to forget one of the ingredients in that was the poor candidate that the Democrats had. There was a far better candidate in Bernie Sanders, for example, whom they screwed to the hill. And everybody knew that the Clintons were simply money hungry and power hungry. And Hillary was one of the great warriors in terms of pushing for bombing and wars every place else. So a lot of folks who voted for Hillary also announced they held their nose to vote for her. So that was part of the picture too.
Yeah, I mean, it's real simple. I mean, he catered to white supremacy, to the disdain that white folks had for a president that was in office that did not look like them. That even though a lot of the policies that were put in place still benefit white folks, but he didn't look like them, and he didn't speak in the way that they wanted him to speak relative to issues that affected the white community. So when Donald Trump came aboard, and he started spewing all the hatred and disdain he had for the way the president at that time administration operated, white folks got themselves together and they ensured that they did everything they could to get someone who they thought operated from a position that they agreed upon would be in office, and they got it done.
Right. Now, clearly Donald Trump doesn't believe America is a great country, because he said, let's make America great again. He didn't say, let's keep America great. He said, let's make it great again. So clearly he doesn't think prior to his election America was great. But for those who think America great, I'd like to know exactly what date they think America was great, and then look at the social conditions that existed in the country at that time. Like, was it the foundation of the country when slavery and the Holocaust of the American Indian was taking place? Like, when was America a great country? But anyways, Mike, I want to come back to your point, because a lot of people have problem with these code words that are used by members of the Republican Party. You said urban.
Which is black.
Right, which it means black to some people's mind. When they hear that word, it's automatically. So those who would not agree with some of the comments that you made in terms of his uses of language and knowing how to use code words, terrorist is automatically associated with Muslims, even though American terrorists are responsible for more death in this country than external
Well,
terrorists.
you identified last week that the oldest terrorist organization in America is the Ku Klux Klan.
So tell how Donald Trump and members of the Republican Party, past and present, use these code words.
Well, what they do, most lawyers on Sunday, if you look at these roundtable discussions, they use what's commonly called dog whistle politics. They're able to talk about us every week. As recently as this last press conference, President Trump said that black people are afraid. He said urban people are afraid to come out of their doors. Now, I don't think the four of us are afraid to come out of our doors, and all of us live in the black community. But he's pitching a dystopian picture that it's a false narrative to make white people think that we're out of control, that black people are out of control. So while he's dealing right now with Arabs, he's letting everybody know we coming. He's dealing with us because he's saying our community's out of control. If they're out of control, that means he has to do something to get control back, because if it's one thing about white supremacists, they believe in control and power. So eventually, right now, he might be dealing with immigration, Latinos, he might be dealing with Arabs and all that, but ultimately, the guns are going to be focusing on us because he's creating a false narrative that the black community is totally out of control. And that's why he keeps talking about Chicago, because he's trying to act as if every black community is synonymous with Chicago.
Well, most of the killing in Chicago is done by white police officers against black folks, so that's interesting too. But one of the things I like, I smile when I hear folks talking about terrorists and terrorist organization in this country, is that if you look at the U.S. involvement around the world, the United States is a terrorist country. What other country in the world is bombing 7 other countries at the same time, interfering in elections, trying to depose legitimately elected? So it's a terrorist country, much less it's terrorist
and that's,
organization.
Father, that's what I found kind of amusing when there was this great conversation about Russian interference in American politics. America has assassinated heads of states. It's not debatable. They have involved themselves in predominantly the non-white world, and whether it be Latin America and Africa, historically, on numerous occasions.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if at one point that was a Freudian slip by Donald Trump, but at one point he was being interviewed, and they were talking to him about Putin, and they were saying, well, listen, man, he's a killer. He's a killer. And he said, well, what about America? Now, I don't know if that was a Freudian slip or he just, needed to be truthful at that moment. But when you talk about how he's dealing with the black community, and you ask about how he's dealing with Muslim and certain aspects of the Hispanic community and certain aspects of our society, we have to remember that this is collectively the way white supremacy works. So don't think that it's just going to be pockets of attacks on certain communities. They dealing overall with white supremacy, and that's what we have to remember. So let's not get confused about whether he's dealing with Muslims, African Americans, or Hispanics.
Well, he's you have to remember in this package, this dystopian view that he's illustrating is dangerous, and we're going to pay for it big time. Right now, he's bringing people to the White House for photo ops to make it look that he's friendly. He at the press conference, he didn't even recognize when the sister journalist said that, well, have you met with the CBC? Are you planning to meet with the CBC? He didn't even realize who the Congressional Black Caucus was. And after she repeated it without using an acronym and said the Congressional Black Caucus, he said, yeah, why don't you set it up? You know them, set it up. Now, he's supposed to know the Congressional Black Caucus. After all, you are the president.
Right.
But, however, he said, can you set it up? And then he went on the line and say that, he called it, he spoke to Elijah Cummings, but Elijah Cummings pulled out of a meeting that he was supposed to come to. So he just lied right there in front of everybody. He does not distinguish between the truth or a lie. He just says anything he wants to say. He even went on record and lied and said about hinted terrorism going on in Sweden. It doesn't even exist. However, this just shows you this is how he ran his business. Jeb Bush said it best. Jeb Bush said he's a chaotic nominee for the presidency, and he will be a chaotic president if he becomes president.
Right, and his saying to a reporter, set up a meeting with the Congressional Black Caucus was highly inappropriate.
Yeah.
I mean,
Presidents don't talk like that.
Presidents don't talk like that, and it's inappropriate for him to suggest that a reporter would set up a meeting with his office. But that just showed the level of disrespect and disregard he has for our community. Father, when you look, I mean, you know a lot about a person by the company they keep. When you look at his appointees, he said he was going to drench the what did he say? He's going to drain
the swamp.
The swamp, right? But
right.
his individuals are from the same multi-billion-dollar corporations and past individuals. One individual in particular, his defense secretary, it's a known fact that he made millions in defense contracts. And now he has his position, whether it's Sessions, whether it's his chief of staff, whether, his whole circle is a great indication of what we're actually saying.
Yeah, it's it's an oligarchy, the billionaires. And this guy, Mad Dog Mattis, when he retired, I think he was a 3-star general. When he was retired, he went into working for the defense industry and made millions of dollars, and now you're going to make him defense secretary. Well, you know where that's going, right? He's going to be making even more money, supporting the folks that he worked for
The military-industrial complex.
Yeah. Well, I agree with Father Lucas. It is an oligarchy and a plutocracy, so it's both a plutocracy and we have to consider that with these appointments, it's reflecting that these administrations that all of his cabinet members are over, they've all fought these. His EPA person fought against the EPA. His education person, Secretary of Education, is a person who's against public education. So he's putting people who's going to destroy these various agencies and water them down so that the rule of law will be non-existent, and that way plutocrats and oligarchs will definitely take over. So billionaires, if you think they rule America now, you watch the power they'll have after this Trump presidency.
And all of this. Yeah.
It's very interesting that not only they have in common that they're all billionaires, but they're all totally ignorant of the positions that they have been appointed to.
And this is to the chagrin of all of those Donald Trump supporters who bit their nose in order to spite their face. But fast forward, before we open up our phone lines to some stories that we covered in the past, our good, heroic sister, Marilyn Mosley, from the Baltimore District Attorney, was unsuccessful in stopping these police officers who she decided to prosecute correctly from suing her. Their civil lawsuit against her will continue. Michael.
Yeah, this is something that's nationwide noteworthy. You have Baltimore State Prosecutor Marilyn Mosby tried to prosecute 6 police officers for the killing of the brother Gray.
On videotape.
And it was documented that they're the ones that caused his death. He was healthy when he ran towards that alley away from them, and they chased him, and he was now unhealthy, and he died ultimately from their action. That's a fact, and she prosecuted as the finder of facts to find out who did what. It was a review of their conduct, and because there was it was a deadlock on one, and then the next two was exonerated by a judge, a black judge, by the way, who they picked. And then after that, all the charges got dropped after that. And 5 of them turn around and sue her, creating a chilling effect, saying, how dare you prosecute police officers for the death of a person, a black person at that. And that's what this is all about. The FOP, which is nationwide, it's not just in Baltimore. For those who don't know, FOP is all over America. And they've decided to load their guns and go after Marilyn Mosby to create that chilling effect on anybody, especially if they're a black prosecutor, but anybody that dares prosecute and dares a review of the actions of a police officer when there's a homicide.
You know, and it's unfortunate that they would allow a prosecutor to be challenged in that way so that she can be fearful, or any prosecutor can be fearful of prosecution when it comes to police cases. So now they're really trying to set a tone. So now the next time there may be a case where there may be a possible unjustified shooting, that prosecutor will think twice before talking about bringing a prosecution against law enforcement officials.
Well, most of them already think twice, even long before this. Even the black prosecutor in the Bronx had a very poor record of dealing with police criminals.
And I think it's a bad trend. Here you have a prosecutor. The murder, the killing of his brother was on tape. The number one priority of police officers when they have custody of an individual is that person's safety. It didn't happen in this case. So somebody has to be held accountable. And in this instance, no one was held accountable. The district attorney decided, as Michael stated, to do a fact-finding mission and prosecute these police officers. And they have the nerve and gall, and it is supported by the authorities that she and her office can be sued by these police officers. As Julian stated, Michael stated, this is all for a chilling effect on future district attorneys considering prosecuting police officers for murdering black men. And let's be clear, it's the murder of an African, and it's an African prosecutor that they're going after.
And by the way, they're going after her law license also.
Right, and they're going after her law license. All right, this sister needs a lot of support. But right now, this is a segment of our program where our phone lines is open. First caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Assalamu alaikum, brothers. Brother Kareem from Harlem.
Hotep, brother. Quick question or comment?
Y'all doing a great job, brother. Y'all making it plain. And Trump is a liar. He's a traitor. He's a diabolical, evil, wicked white devil, and he represents white racism. That's what it's all about, as far as what these white people did by putting him in. Second of all, I just want to say, brother, we should hold some ourselves responsible for what happened to Malcolm, because it was just as much as our fault as it was the white racist government who brought about and manipulated it. And we should never forget that we need to teach our children the history of our heroes and our heroes so they will be prepared to deal with these devils and what they've been doing to our people. Y'all brothers have a blessed day and keep doing a great job. Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, thank you, Brother Walaikum Salam. And I would never suggest that we are just as responsible as members of the powerful white community, be it police, be it the FBI, or mayors, etc., equally responsible. But you entitled to your opinion, brother. We always appreciate your phone call. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Harlem. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hotep, brother. Quick question or comment?
Hello. All right, I see you guys I can't hear you, but I'm just going to talk.
Okay.
Gentlemen, I regret to inform the passing of James Brown's drummer, Clyde Stubblefield, who made his transition over the weekend at the age of 73. Brother Stubblefield has played an iconic song such as Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud, and the Funky Drummer, which really put Mr. Stubblefield on the map with the hip-hop community. Although Mr. Stubblefield received little recognition for his contributions to music much of his career, he did earn the respect of fellow musicians and younger players. He was the main drummer in a very frenetic live two-drummer stage show, which James ran from pillar to post, and Mr. Stubblefield was also the only drummer that James Brown was allowed to take with him to Vietnam. Clyde Stubblefield, rest in peace. Let's give the drummer some more. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, thank you, brother.
Thank
Thank
you,
you for informing our audience of that. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Hey, brothers, I'm calling from the People's Republic of Brooklyn.
Okay, Hotep, brother.
And I'd like to talk about, well, the brother mentioned about black people being complicit in Malcolm X's death. He should know that the guy that's giving Malcolm the mouth, I can't think of his name right now, but he was an undercover cop. Okay, and he was surrounded and infiltrated by the New York City police. Also, I'd like to speak on black people have to realize this. We got the 2020 to get this together. We got to start getting our demands together because I know, even though I agree with you guys, I don't have any faith in the Democratic Party. It is what it is. We're going to vote for somebody in 2020. Right now, black people should be getting their demands together. We should not be putting our efforts behind any candidate that does not recognize the demands of what we want. And I want to say something about Brother Malcolm died penniless. Brother Martin Luther King died penniless. But our boy Obama is down there with a multi-millionaire named Richard Branson from Virgin Records and whatnot. He'll be financially well off for the rest of his life, and he did jack for our people. Power to the people.
Yes, sir. All
Yeah,
right.
just want to say
Thank you
for
for
the
your call,
record,
caller.
the brother you're talking about was not a regular police officer. He came through Bureau of Special Services. He did not go into the regular police academy, and he reported to different people. Like I said, there was an FBI component to this, and certainly he was not a part of the assassination. Actually, he warned the police department the week before when he saw a dry run of a rehearsal of how they was going to kill Malcolm. He alerted the police department, and they reassured him, told him don't worry about it, because they already knew the plan was already in effect.
In the history of the police departments throughout this nation, they have consistently and persistently participated, I know it's easy for me to say, in the murder of representatives of our community who just wanted freedom, justice, and equality. Police departments all around the country, including the New York City Police Department. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Hello?
Yes, how you doing, sister?
Hi. I'm an older white woman.
Okay.
I came into your program late, accidentally, actually.
Okay.
But
Welcome.
I need you to know that white people, well, the ones of us that have two brain cells, are just as horrified by what the bad police do to the black people. It's been going on a long time. We've hated it for a long time. It's just hard to know what to do. But we do support you in many, many ways. You just really should know that.
Right.
We're not all hateful.
Right. Okay.
Or unmindful of what's going on.
Okay, and we appreciate those comments. Anyone?
Yeah, I would just say thank you for the kind words, but your work, as Malcolm advised, should be in your community. White people that see injustice, they should deal with that in their community. They should not come into black organizations and then try to run them and impose your will on black people, telling them what to do. Your mission, if you decide to accept the mission, would be to go to your own and coerce your own to stop doing the very things that they do, and make sure that police officers get prosecuted, like those 6 police officers in Baltimore, like the 8 police officers involved in Eric Garner here in New York. It should not just, the onus should not just be on the black community, but we're going to fight our fight. We're going to stand for ourselves. But if you want to stand, do your work in the white community to reverse the system of white supremacy.
And I'm speaking for myself. I don't throw a blanket over all white people. I don't think that all white people have a hatred or contributing to intentionally contributing to the ills that are affecting black people. So I'm not throwing a blanket over everyone, and I'm not. And I appreciate your comments and your words, and I thank you for them. But I do respond to the ills and the inappropriate things that do occur in the black community at the hands of white supremacy.
Right.
But they have a system, so they can afford to have so-called nice white people. Those same so-called nice white people are right now gentrifying Harlem, gentrifying Bed-Stuy under the cloak of appearing to be nice because they have a system that does it for them, so their hands are clean. I don't see that energy. I don't see prominent whites that have power that will use their power against other white people in power, because if they were to do that, they would see their power dissipated immediately. So if there's some good white folks, if you do exist, then fight white supremacy, because even white clergy supported Donald Trump 80%. 80% of all white clergy encourage their churches to support Donald Trump. So that so-called good white folks, or as Noel points out, the myth of the white liberal, if that's true, show and prove, because I don't see it.
Right. And in the words of Neely Fuller, although he may not, Neely Fuller, who was a psychiatrist, talked about white supremacy and the prevalence and existence, he said he wouldn't call all white people white supremacists, but what is clear is that the whites who are white supremacists are in control. They outnumber the whites. They're more diligent in promoting white supremacy because white supremacy is so pervasive in every institution in this country. Clearly, the majority or the strongest of the white community are the white supremacists.
Right.
And those whites who claim not to be white supremacists do little to nothing to break that strength that those who are white supremacists have in this country. But next call, thank you for your call.
I just want to point out that also, even if they're not white supremacists, all white folks benefit from what's going down.
All right, next call. But thank you for your call. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Community Cop family, Noel, brother Mike, father Julian. How you doing? Listen, still, I got to say that if Alton Maddox had his license, he'd have handled that case with that young man who's accused of
Agreed.
the young lady.
Agreed. No doubt.
About Hillary Clinton maybe running for mayor of New York. I heard a rumor on that. Number 3, I think Chicago is going to be the first test run of military occupation of the inner cities.
True.
And my 4th question is, did the gentleman that pulled the trigger at the Audubon Ballroom that did that 35 years, even though the CIA and the FBI was involved in New York City Police Department, did the gentleman that pulled the trigger at the oil bomb that killed Malcolm X and he went to jail, did he ever say he was innocent of that crime? See, black folks...
Initially he did.
Comes to black on black violence.
Initially he did, but once those other 2 was convicted, he did admit, he had to admit it because he was caught on the scene.
Right.
They was beating the hell out of him when the police rescued him from Malcolm's people. So he did admit to it, and in time he did admit the other 4 people who did it. 2 of them are still alive in Jersey as we speak right now. So he admitted to it, but much later after his conviction.
Right. All right, next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Hello?
Yes, where you calling from, caller?
I'm calling from Harlem.
Hotep, quick question or comment?
I would like to see the drummers back in Marcus Garvey Park. Tell the Reverend over there, he know where the park is. Put them drums back in there so we can get that beat, so we can feel that vibe from Africa, man. We need to hear them drums so these people can know where their history comes from.
Why don't you tell him?
I try to tell them, but I'm just one person, man. I need
Okay.
to come out and forth.
That's fair. That's fair.
All 3 or 4 of y'all handsome fellas, come on out.
No, that's fair. But also tell elected officials, and we'll be with you. Tell us when you're going to do it. We with you, brother.
Right.
I don't have no organization. You just come on out. Big Mike, you come on out there.
Okay.
Brother, just say when.
Please.
Say when.
We got you, brother. We got you.
Say
Come
when.
this weekend. Come on out to Harlem.
Okay.
Come
All right,
out to Marcus Garvey. Bring the Reverend with you. He live across the street.
Right. Okay. What the brothers talk about, they had drummers that would drum in what's that park?
Marcus Garvey
Park. Infinitum. But once the community was gentrified, which is a word y'all like, but once whites took over the land, because I don't like that word gentrification, they complained about the drummers and they were since eradicated. But next caller.
I just wanted to point out, I don't know when he came on the scene, but I just wanted to point out that the initial, when the new whites began to object to it, it was I and a few others who stood up and said, no, we want the drums.
Right. All right. Next caller. Welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Hello?
Hotep, brother.
What's up?
Where you calling from?
Calling Mom.
All right, quick question or comment.
What's up, brother? Yeah, I'm the brother that voted with Donald Trump.
Okay, brother. Go ahead, brother.
What's his name? Whoopi, Oprah, Samuel L. Jackson, right? All these fools said that Donald Trump elected, we get out of America, right? But I don't see him going no damn well. When you go, you say he's going, Reverend now say he's going to Canada. I don't see his ass still right here. His ass still, and I don't right over here on the 25th Street, right here. I go down there, I see that stupid old House of Justice still open. Okay? Whoopi done said, Whoopi and Oprah, they said that they were leaving. I don't see them going nowhere either. And Samuel Jackson said he's getting out of here too. Well, yeah, Samuel Jackson, he said, he's going to get out of here too. I don't see him going no damn way he on TV. Okay? Talk about what's in this, what somebody was. What's in your damn wallet, nigga? What's in your wallet?
Okay.
You in damn Capital One. What's in the damn wallet?
Okay, all right, brother, we got your point. Thank you.
I don't see him going no damn. I don't see no airplane ticket in this wallet.
Okay, we got your point, brother. Thank you for calling. As always, you're always welcome to call Community Cop. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Hey, peace, fellas. Calling from.
Okay, brother, quick question or comment?
Yeah, just a quick comment. There was a couple of callers that was talking about Malcolm and Martin, that both of them died broke. What I want to tell that brother is you need to read a book called Orders to Kill by William Pepper.
Right.
That will talk about point by point what happened to Marty. Marty did not die broke because he was part and parcel with the Jewish establishment in certain ways. We don't got to get into that, but he was part of them, and he was getting paid by them, so he did not die broke.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did, brother. I'm not saying that there weren't Jewish links to Dr. King. However, when he died, he had somewhere between $7,000 in the bank. And if you have 4 children and a mortgage, that's not a lot of money. So for the work he was doing, the way he put his life on the line, to be at an event and find out from his people that his house was just blowed up while his wife and baby, his first baby, was in the house with them. No, we can't accept that, brother. Dr. King put it all on the line. He was not about the dollar. These people we have now are about the dollar. Dr. King was not among them, brother. No, sir.
Neither was Malcolm.
Right.
But information, our research said something different, but that's okay. We can disagree, but
Right.
it's fine.
Okay, thank you for your call.
Okay.
And like Michael said, when you contrast them to the so-called prototypes of Martin Luther King, which is Jesse Jackson, multimillionaire, Reverend Sharpton, multimillionaire, we don't have an individual who was committed to our elevation in history that died millionaires. You know, and I don't mind. I love to see brothers rich, but I want to know where you're getting your money from. You know, if those who are oppressing us are supporting you financially, then there's a problem with that. But next caller, I feel Julian. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me, brother?
Where you calling from, brother?
Calling from Harlem.
Quick question or comment?
Thank you, greeting. Yeah, if these, this is not a surprise. There's a group, a white core group of whatever, right wing, what you want to call them, ideologues, or whatever they decide to call. I've been trying to get military, whatever, National Guards or whoever, to go into black communities for the longest. And the thing is that this crime rate business, you know, like what it is, business through New York. If this crime stats were decreased, were dramatically declined in Chicago or Baltimore, wherever these fights are taking place, you would have been hearing people lecture to you all over television and radio about how broken window theories work and how the people who got transplanted from NYPD over to Chicago and Miami and D.C., how this stuff works. And broken windows and crime stat, it would have been lecturing to you all day. Now, since that turned out not to be the case, for a simple reason. Wherever there's economic marginalization, you're going to find alternative systems where people are trying to get money. The problem is that you have brothers and sisters who haven't figured out anything in terms of a revolutionary consciousness like what you had in the 60s.
Right. Okay, brother.
Panthers and their teams, et cetera, et cetera. I think you know what I'm talking about.
Okay, yeah, we know what you're talking about. We got a lot of calls, brother. Thank you for your point. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Brooklyn.
Okay, Brooklyn. Quick question or comment?
This is your brother Nat. I just want to reiterate what Michael started off with. Brother Mike, thank you so much. Maybe people aren't getting it. They're talking about terrorism and all of these things in the morning, and they're saying immigration through terrorism. They have to eliminate. They have to make up these laws. You see, all of a sudden, the Bodega Union has come out and said, why don't we all stand together? Why aren't we all hugging and against this? I didn't see them come out when their number one customers were being struck down in the street.
Right, all right.
Another thing is, as they go for this in the morning, as they go for this terrorism, immigration, this is about separating black and brown people. And by the nighttime, they'll be here for us.
Right.
What are we going to do about it?
Okay, excellent point, brother. Thank you for your call. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from?
Oh, hi. My name is John. I'm calling from Minneapolis.
Okay, Minneapolis. Welcome. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I just wanted to say you have a member of the clergy, on your panel, and I'm just appalled that people that, align themselves, and they call themselves Christian, and align themselves with somebody like Donald Trump. He's just morally reprehensible for all the reasons that people state, and it's very factual things that he has said, and he gets away with it. And I, as a Christian, I think, how can we change that narrative? Because you don't hear in the media very much pushback from other Christians or other clergy members of the Muslim faith. I don't really hear it. And it seems like the left really sanitizes themselves from, anything that has to do with religion, just reflexively, when, really we have I think that we have the moral authority on the left nowadays, and actually most of the time. I mean, it is really a moral issue, and we need to make that connection, because that's what Malcolm X and also Martin Luther King did, and Mahatma Gandhi.
Okay.
Yeah, anyway,
Okay.
that's my comment.
All right, we got your point. Let's hear from the father.
Sure.
Thank you for your call, caller. Continue watching and continue calling.
Your point is taken, but you have to remember that the folks who are serious about, say, Christianity, if that's what you're talking about, do not get the publicity. Who got the publicity in this among the clergy? A group of jive-ass black clergy who were kissing up to Trump for what? Economic and benefits, and hoping that it will give them some power. Those are the ones you hear about. To hear about the others, you have to be involved yourself, because they're not going to get coverage from the Times or Fox News.
And Noel always talks about, white media. They have an opportunity to spew or put out any information they decide to put out. They control what's being said over the airways. So until you get an opportunity to watch a show like Community Cops, and again, we thank you for watching, and as Noel always says, tell a flow, tell a friend, you get to hear a different perspective.
All right, next caller. Welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from? All right, that might be it. We have to close down. Sorry, callers. All of those, we had a full selection on the line. Closing comments, Julian?
Listen, it's very important that we, as we have these discussions and these debates, that we remember that we have to be focused and make sure that we get information out, and we work collectively to ensure that the ills that are affecting our community are addressed by our community from our perspective.
All right, Big Mike?
Certainly, you can cut it.
All right, hold on. They said we could take one more phone call. All right, last phone call. Go ahead, caller.
I'm calling you from Washington Heights.
Yes, quick comment. We close it down.
It means Harlem.
Can you hear me? I'm calling you from Washington Heights.
Go ahead, brother. Quick caller. All right, scratch that call. Next caller. All right, no, we don't have time. Let's just make our closing comment. Michael, last comment.
Yeah, just
Sorry, callers.
Yeah, just want to say for the record, we lost a great one, James Bryson, who made his transition last week. He was a member of UAM and the Freedom Party. Did so much great things. Was one of the teachers at the Freedom Retreat for boys and girls. He just did so much work. all these years. Strong brother, courageous, and just worked tirelessly for United African Movement. So looking forward to sending them on right Friday in Harlem on 132nd Street. Black man, black woman, protect the black child. Accept your own and be yourself. Blog Talk, Straight Black Pride, every Thursday night at 7 o'clock. Every Saturday night at 10:30. The Million Women's Movement. Great work, Sister Filet, for all you do. Stay strong.
Don't think of supporting any candidate running for public office unless you come with a list of demands and which they must publicly agree to. Otherwise, you're wasting your time.
And aside from the Charles Barron and Ms. Barron, I can't think of one or two others that has worked their weight in gold, and I'm talking about black elected officials. So we have to do a lot of house cleaning. But on behalf of Community Cop, we'd like to thank our producers and engineers, Veronica Kitten, Nat Wood, Sheila Berry, Baby. We'd like to thank you once again, our viewing audience. And, on our history piece, the reason why that's so important, that we know our history, as some of the callers have stated. Don't forget that during Europeans' colonization of history, they've changed the image, they changed the facts, they changed the data. So it's very important that we make certain, as Julie we say, that we teach our own history. And we thank all you for viewing, for watching. Our Free Speech TV audience, once again, you can catch us on ManhattanNeighborNetwork.org every Tuesday at 5 o'clock. And our family, you can catch us on Free Speech TV on Saturdays at 11 o'clock. All right? This is where Truth and Real Talk, 11 p.m. on Saturdays on Free Speech TV. See you next Tuesday, 5 o'clock. Tell a foe, tell a friend. Knowledge is power. Peace.
Gene Roberts wasn't a part of the assassination. Just remember that. But the NYPD was.
That's right. And the Europeans and Americans have written us out of history. We have to put ourselves back into it. See you next Tuesday.